If that worked, he moved to 1,000. If that worked, he moved to 1,500. And that took Nasser all the way to 5 grams of testosterone. Hello friends, I have a wonderful surprise for you guys. Today we're going to discuss Nasser Elsonbaty's actual cycles, his pre-contest cycles, in his own words. But before we do, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, like the video, and comment on the video for the sake of the algorithm. Now I want to make something clear. The reason why I thought to bring this up is, first of all, I recently got this audio recording that I never even knew existed. It's fascinating. But the reason I'm bringing it up is this. As you guys know from yesterday's video, I have some criticisms of the bodybuilding coach Milos Sarcev. In particular, Milos used to be friends with Nasser and apparently may have advised him in some small way during his career, or even in a big way. But they ended up hating, well, at least Nasser ended up hating Milos and died hating him. Now the problem is, I feel that recently Milos has been taking credit for Nasser's progression between 1994 to 1995. And in fact, he's been claiming that this progression came because of him recommending that Nasser increase his protein requirement, or double his protein consumption rather. This is a fairy tale. In reality, Nasser massively increased his drug usage between 1994 and 1997. And he says so in his own words. Moreover, I find that Milos claiming credit for Nasser, and especially attributing to something that's not the real reason, but claiming credit for Nasser's progression is distasteful. He knows that Nasser died hating him. And to be honest with you, I really believe that Nasser knows more about nutrition and drug use than Milos. I really do. And I think Nasser was more intelligent than Milos. I believe if he was alive today, he would have a response to the interviews that Milos has been doing in which he takes credit for his stuff. But he can't respond because he's dead. So I'm going to for him. Just to play the audio for you guys a little bit before we get started so you know it's real.
I will go in detail. The average after 10 years of training was definitely 1,600 milligrams per week. All testosterone and deca, whatever you use, the combination was something which was not teratogenic combined. So 1,500 milligrams of so-called anabolic steroids per week, including the pills. Then later it went to 2,000, 2,500, and it's up to 3,500. And I'm not joking, guys. I had once a week where it took 5,000 milligrams of testosterone per week, and I have no problem to say it.
He just said, I got to a point where I was taking 5,000 milligrams of just testosterone a week. And I have no problem admitting it because everybody does it and nobody says it. This is incredible stuff. So let me take you, I can't play the full audio here because first of all, I don't own it. This discussion was occurred between John Romano and my friend Lee Priest and Nasser Elsonbaty. It's a very old discussion that I don't believe is available online. I don't even know if Romano or especially Priest even have the original. But I have a recording of it. It's not that clear, but I have like a 9-minute recording. And from that recording, instead of playing it all for you guys, I'm going to summarize what we learned from it. Exactly. And I'm not going to paraphrase or add any kind of words or anything like that. We're taking the words straight from Nasser. So let's get started. First of all, Nasser said that after several years of training, at the age of 22, he began using steroids. And he was using 1.5 grams, so 1,500 milligrams of androgens in total. So that includes both orals and injectable steroids. Regarding his progression in androgen usage, Nasser explained that it's a natural progression for pro bodybuilders. He said that if they use 500 milligrams, they'll try, and it works for them, they'll try 700 to see if it works. And if 700 work, they'll try 1,000. And if 1,000 work, they'll try 1,500. He said it's a natural progression. He himself progressed from 1.5 grams of androgens total to 2 grams, he said, then to 3 grams, then to 3.5 grams. And then he says he got to a point at which he was using per week 5,000 milligrams of just testosterone. And he said, I quote, "Everybody does it, but no one says it." And that's why he's not embarrassed to admit it. Next, in terms of growth hormone, Nasser said something very interesting. So he said there's a famous, they're talking about dosages. He said there's a very famous, very tall bodybuilder who had retired. I believe he's talking about Lou Ferrigno, but I'm not sure. And he said that bodybuilder lived in California. And he learned from that bodybuilder that he was taking 30 units of growth hormone per day. And this was after he had retired. So Nasser tried to use between 30 to 35 units, he said, for 5 days. He said he felt horribly. Instead, Nasser took, on average, 18 units of growth hormone per day in pre-contest season for up to 2 to 3 months straight. Now, the interviewers asked Nasser Elsonbaty, what are the average doses that professional bodybuilders use? He said that the average professional bodybuilder uses between 2 to 3 grams of androgens total, and that really this doesn't differ between amateurs and professionals, and also smaller guys sometimes take more than bigger guys. In terms of growth hormone, Nasser Elsonbaty said that the average professional bodybuilder uses around 10 units per day in the off season, and pre-contest, the average professional bodybuilder in his time, early 2000s, was using between 15 to 20 international units of growth hormone per day. By the way, then Lee Priest interrupted and said as a joke that he needs to up his dosages. Now, in terms of side effects, John Romano asked Nasser Elsonbaty, when you're taking 5 grams of testosterone only, aside from the other androgens, and you're taking 18 units of growth hormone pre-contest, did you experience any side effects? Nasser said, honestly, none. And then hauntingly, he said, I hope that they won't appear later. Nasser said that everybody has a different constitution. And then he named Ronnie Coleman by name and said Ronnie has a constitution of a horse. He said for this guy, it doesn't matter if he takes 1 gram of testosterone a day or 1 gram of testosterone a week. He's not going to experience side effects. Speaking of different constitutions, Nasser then said there are some people who take only 1 to 2 anadrol 50s a day and get nosebleeds. He said he has issues with ephedrine and clenbuterol. However, with anadrol, he said, and I quote, I have no problems whatever the dosage may be. And by the way, guys, the doses can get very high, as you guys have heard from before. My close powerlifting friend used to take 20 anadrol 50s a day. That did happen, and this was around the same time frame as well. Finally, Nasser said, if I really think about it, maybe my shoe size increased by 1 size. And he said that in general, sometimes people's ears and jaws grow. And then he pointed out Jay Cutler, pointing out his jaw, but then he said he doesn't know what Jay Cutler's jaw used to look like. Now, this discussion didn't involve insulin, and it didn't involve other androgens. We don't know how many anadrols he ended up taking in the end. We don't know how many other injectables he took. We do know he was casually using 5 grams of testosterone and 18 units of growth hormone pre-contest. He may have been using much more than that. We don't know what the total is. It may have been something similar to what Dallas was using. And of course, he did die of multiple organ failure, kidneys and heart at the same time. Just everything got destroyed. So what's interesting here, is like Milos's recent comments, they remind me of the old days in the early 2000s. We used to read Flex magazine and these magazines where pros used to BS about their diet, changing everything about their life. Or like Fawad WL's channel, where they all claimed that they used 100 milligrams of trenbolone max per day, which, man, I don't want to accuse anybody. But look at Brett Wilkins. I mean, there's some very obvious indications that this guy is using a little bit higher levels of androgens. Same for James Hollingshead. I'm a little bit surprised that these guys all claim they use 700 milligrams of testosterone pre-contest and they've never used more than 100 milligrams of trenbolone. Just like Nasser said. He said it in his own words. I'm not a bodybuilder, but Nasser was. He said if a bodybuilder used 500 and it worked, he'll move to 700. If that worked, he'll move to 1,000. If that worked, he'll move to 1,500. And that took Nasser all the way to 5 grams of testosterone. Those are the kind of people that are competing, trying to win. So it's very interesting, after hearing Nasser say all these things, you start to question things. Like when Dave Palumbo said the max he ever used was 8 units of growth hormone. I mean, Nasser was making fun of Dave Palumbo for his growth hormone use. So if Nasser was using 18 units, see, the thing about Nasser is he's so honest. And that's why I care about him and I want to preserve his memory. So the point is, Nasser was a very intelligent person. If you see his discussions elsewhere, you realize very intelligent, very capable, probably knew more about drugs than Milos. She may have learned some things from him, but he was very capable at managing his own self. And no one deserves to take credit for a man's work, Maybe if Nasser attributed credit publicly to Milos, that would be different, but don't take the credit of a dead man, Anyway, guys, I hope you have a great day and I hope to see you soon.